later.
Okay.
And good morning, this is Mike Lodge, I am the business advisor. I tell you, I woke up this morning and it was muggy and hot. The temperature right now is sitting at about 65 degrees. Had to turn the air conditioning on because inside it's 75 degrees. I want some nice air conditioning for a change. I've been running the heat all winter long because it's been so cold, and now I get to turn on just a little bit of air conditioning. It's all good. It's all good. Listen, one of the things that we have not talked about, and the U.S. government seems to kind of ignore, the president ignores it, the members of Congress ignore it, and we cannot ignore it. And what it is the interest that we pay on the nation's debt is out of control. In 2022, the Congressional Budget Office, who looks at all these things and reports all these mishaps to the Congress, CBO stands for the Congressional Budget Office, for 2022, they underestimated the amount of interest that we would pay on that debt by $26 billion with a capital B dollars. Now, looking at 2023, where do we stand? It's bad. And every single one of us, if we were running our home like this, our home finances, our home economy, our parent economy, we would be in debt. We would be out of business. We would be in debtor's jail. But the government keeps appropriating money and wasting our tax dollars that you and I are working hard for 2023. The forecast by the CBO forecast interest payments jumped by 45%. I'm going to tell you what that means in dollars. One of the most troubling things about the latest Congressional Budget Office forecast on President Joe Biden's watch is how much the budget situation has deteriorated compared to last year's forecast, released in May. Last year, the CBO projected that 2023 net interest payments would total $442 billion. Can you imagine spending $442 billion on interest, on debt, on wars that we should not be involved in? Last year, the CBO projected that 2023 net interest payments would total $442 billion. It's been less than a year, and now CBO expects that annual interest payments for 2023 will be about $200 billion higher, a total of $640 billion in interest payments. That 45% correction is mostly the result of rapidly rising interest rates since last year. I tell you, we are in a pickle, and let me tell you, the pickle was not made very well. It's poisonous. The Congressional Budget Office assumes that the scheduled expiration of the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act will occur. And beginning January 1, 2026, Americans across the income groups will face a multi-trillion-dollar tax increase. Tax rates would rise on individuals across the board, and the standard deduction would be cut in half. The looming tax hike would be painful for American families who already are being squeezed economically, but it wouldn't meaningfully improve America's debt situation. Would not improve it at all. Our overspending could continue, plunging us towards a debt crisis, as the CBO milestones below demonstrate in this article below. I'm going to link this article down below in my news link. I tell you, the more and more I think about it, the more and more I get pissed off. Because we have this data, we have this information. Now, maybe the data isn't good because they were off $26 trillion for 2022. They had to raise their estimates on interest rates, and then they had to raise it again for 2023 by 45%. And here we have all this data that's being thrown at us, and no one's paying attention to it at all. I might be the only one that's sitting here reading this data, and you and I know what's going on. This country is in trouble when it comes to overspending, taxation, and the debt. And the interest on that debt is growing every single day. But no one talks about it. They ignore it. Have you heard President Biden speak about it? No, he keeps saying, the economy is good. We're doing good. We have cut our spending. No, he's increased spending. He has increased the interest rate that we have to pay on that debt that he has created. You see, the debt ceiling is talking about all these laws that Congress passed. The Inflation Reduction Act created more spending. The one before that created more spending. And we're out of control in this area of spending. If you and I ran our houses, we would be we would be dead. Our families would come to us and say, and our friends would say to us, you don't know what you're doing. You have no idea what you're doing, and you're getting deeper and deeper into debt. I hear comments every single day about people trying to survive in this inflationary, recessionary time, and yet the government doesn't care, and they keep spending. They keep indulging themselves on their political agendas. Both Democrats and Republicans are 100% guilty on this issue. Now, yesterday, Congress was trying to curb in the spending of the president, which means nothing because it will never get signed. The president will never sign that law never sign that bill into law. Never. He has veto authority. Do you think he's going to sign a law that's going against him and his spending? No. Because he doesn't care about spending. He thinks that throwing more money at problems solves the issue by not even looking at the issue in the first place and see if there are any other opportunities or alternatives to correcting the issue. No, he just throws money at it. And that money goes to waste because it's spent on the wrong things. So if we are going to have this kind of interest that you and I, are going to have to pay for, this has to stop. So the president is going to have to sit down at the negotiating table and start going through the budget and deleting things that should not be there, that we don't need. And there's a lot in there. There's a lot of wasteful spending. You and I both know that when we sit down and do our budgets, we cut out everything we don't need. We focus on making sure that we have a house to house our family, food to put on the table, the utilities to keep the houses warm and cool, cars to get us to work. We look at the prime aspects of our life and what we need to cover to be able to do other things. So the president needs to sit down and look at the budget very carefully with members of Congress and negotiate things out and say, okay, we need to cut this. That multi-million-dollar park in San Francisco that Nancy Pelosi wants in her district, that can go. They don't need another park. San Francisco is a park. You create more parks and there's going to be more homeless in those parks. We don't need things like that. We don't need telephones for people. We can cut down on the budget by deleting a lot of the operating expenses of the United States government. In fact, since a lot of companies have laid off people, it's about time that the government begin to lay off people who are doing redundant jobs of other departments. We know what we have to do as good Americans. We have to sit down with our families and say, listen, my children, it's not going to be any more Netflix. You're going to have to use YouTube instead. There's no more popsicles. We're going to have to make them ourselves. And the list goes on of what we can do to save money. And we work together as a family. Unfortunately, in politics, the political agenda outweighs what the American people need and what they want. The American people want to see reductions in government. It's too expensive. If you look at all the employees and the great health benefits that they get the Cadillac of insurance policies. They have the best vacations. They have the best pay. If you look at the pay of individuals in government, the average salary is about $75,000 compared to in the U.S. sector of $46,000. That's a big difference. Government people get paid very well. And all of us get frustrated a lot with government employees. Not all of them are bad, because I've worked with a lot of them that were really good employees. They really wanted to help. But then you have others who are there because they're following what their pension is going to be on the day they retire. You see this also in state government too. People sit around talking about pensions and what their assembly or senate has just voted in to help them. I mean, I've heard those conversations. I've sat in those conversations, and I have heard what they talk about. Same thing happens in federal. If you look at some IRS agents, and I'm not picking on you guys on IRS, but this is what I've heard from IRS agents directly to me, is that they are waiting for their retirement, and right before they retire, they're going to try and get raised up into a higher position, so that when they retire, their retirement pay is going to be much more. That's the planning that they do. And you've heard those conversations in state and local governments also. So we have an expense item in our United States government that we can go through the budget and start deleting some items that should not be there anymore. Spending that's out of control. And by the way, on this loan forgiveness plan, listen, I don't know what the Supreme Court will do, because they surprise me all the time. But if they say it's okay to forgive, okay, that forgiveness is going to be taxable to you, because now it's income to you. They forgave a debt that becomes income to you, and it becomes taxable on your tax return. And you're going to have to report it. So you may think it's free, but no, it's not free. It's taxable. Listen, if you want to have follow me and read all my podcast, listen to all my podcasts and blogs, go to www.buymeacoffee.com/Michael Lodge. Go there, sign up, follow me, support me if you want to. I would greatly appreciate it. Also, if you would like to sit down with me and go over some business questions or issues that you have concerns with, you can schedule an appointment with me. Go to www.lodge.co.com. And if you have a business question, make it short, send it to thebusinessadvisor@gmail.com. Everyone have a great day. I love you, love you, love you. Bye-bye.